Whether flats will be built on Fanling golf course remains unclear. Police force relaxes criteria for recruitment. U.S. ambassador to China wants Beijing to persuade Russia to stop bombing Ukraine. Hello and welcome to TVB News. Members of the newly appointed Advisory Council on the Environment met this afternoon to discuss the future of part of the Fanling golf course, where the government intends to build homes. But there was no conclusion. Today's discussions mainly focused on the additional report submitted by the government more than a week ago. Sharon Tang reports.
The lease term for some 23 hectares of land within the Fanling golf course will end in August. Authorities plan to build 12,000 public housing units and other facilities on 9 hectares of land there. But assessment was suspended by the previous Advisory Council on the Environment last year and no consensus was reached. Earlier, the government submitted an additional report to support its plan to develop the golf course. The report also discovered more species of moths and birds there. The report said some 0.39 hectares of woodland has low to medium ecological value, thus suggested it to be removed. The new Advisory Council held its first meeting today.
You have 4 new species to Hong Kong.
Eric Ho, member of the council, questioned why the number of species mentioned in the reports submitted by the golf course and the government are very different. Simon Chan from the Agriculture, Fisheries and Conservation Department noted the figure will definitely be huge if the entire golf course is included. Some members suggested inspecting the golf course in person, as for new members it's hard to see the bigger picture when all they do is read written reports and look at photos. Yet again, there's no conclusion after 2 hours of discussion today. Brian Wong, member of Liber Research Community, said the government has not adjusted its housing planning on the site at all, which creates the impression that authorities are not doing enough. Sharon Tang, TVB News.
Starting on Friday, candidates wishing to join the police will no longer have to meet the previous height and weight requirements. They can also wear glasses or contact lenses during the exam. If they failed either the Chinese or English GSC exams, they can take an alternative test offered by the force. Veronica Lin reports.
The police force in recent years has had difficulties in recruiting new officers. Previously, male candidates had to be at least 1.63 meters tall and weigh at least 50 kilograms, whilst females had to be at least 1.52 meters and 42 kilograms. They also had to pass an unaided eyesight test, which included identifying 10 capital letters from 3 meters away. The force said that given the current social environment, these physical requirements have limited relevance to police work. Hence, they will be scrapped to make sure the recruitment program is as competitive as that of other disciplinary forces. Maxim Kwok of the Human Resource Branch at the Hong Kong Police Force said the force is looking for well-rounded candidates, not just focusing on how tall or heavy someone is. Besides, she said, technology is so advanced that it's easy to correct vision problems. With the lifting of these requirements, she hopes more candidates will sign up for recruitment. Previously, the force also required candidates to achieve level 2 or above in 5 subjects on their DSCs. But they now can take an alternative test as a substitute if they were to fail their Chinese and English language exams. The force said the 2 exams have 60 questions each, with sections including reading comprehension. Candidates will pass the exam if they answer half of the questions or more correctly. The police will hold the 6th Recruitment Experience and Assessment Day on the 18th of next month, providing candidates with the opportunity to take the written test on the spot. Veronica Lin, TVB News.
The Legislative Council passed the 3rd reading of the 2023-24 budget today. Financial Secretary Paul Chan said he is hopeful Hong Kong's economy will reach its target growth this year. The budget was supported by 82 votes with 1 abstention. The government predicted an economic growth of 3.5 to 5.5%, which will reverse 4 quarterly economic contractions. Chan said new economic figures will be released in the middle of May. Despite a deficit of more than $100 billion in the first half of the year, Paul Chan said the SAR's public finances remain stable. Former RTHK journalist Bao Choy appeared at the Court of Final Appeal today. She's appealing her case for making false statements. 5 judges listened to representations from both sides and adjourned to deliver their verdict at a later date. Choy was fined $6,000 3 years ago for deceiving the government twice to access car ownership records for an RTHK documentary on the 2019 Yuen Long mob attack. Today, the court dealt with legal points. This included what constitutes transport-related matters and if the transport commissioner can refuse journalistic requests that do not fall into transport-related matters. After the hearing, Choy said it's up to the judges to decide on how to strike a balance between privacy and freedom of the press. It's estimated some 600,000 mainland tourists came to Hong Kong during the Golden Week holiday, which ended today. Tourism leaders say the influx is a chance to diversify the city's profile as a place to visit. Timothy Lee reports.
With the Golden Week holiday coming to an end, scores of mainland tourists could still be seen queuing outside restaurants in Tsim Sha Tsui, many of them hoping to get a taste of traditional Hong Kong. Kanji shops were among the most popular, with long lines seen outside this business on Canton Road. Nearby shopping malls also reported a 50% year-on-year increase of customers this week, but some shop owners noticed a change in shopping attitudes among the mainland travelers.
This
Tsim Sha Tsui shopping mall spokesperson said visitors from the mainland have become accustomed to shopping online during the pandemic, which has led to an increased desire for high quality and exclusive products when shopping in the city. Executive Director of the Hong Kong Tourism Association, Timothy Cui, noted the growing interest among mainland tourists in Hong Kong's cultural and historical sites, such as the old Yamate police station. He urged authorities to further promote the city's culture and distribute free rail and bus tickets in order to attract more tourists. Meanwhile, some tourists shared their travel experience and also pointed out specific delicacies of the SAR that they would like to try.
The food is delicious. I like here, so I think I will visit here next month. This culture and these people I love.
I like Hong Kong because the scenery is very special, and I like this very delicious food because such as seafood, mooncake. I will go to the Causeway Bay to shopping. I very like Hong Kong.
It's very much better than what I expected. The weather in Hong Kong is amazing. You see, there is no raining. I think the people here are very polite. And because I was born in Canton, Guangdong, so I love to speak with people, with native people in Cantonese. So that's the best part I love in Hong Kong. And
although today is the final day of the Golden Week holiday, many mainland tourists are still keen to tour the city. Several tourists said they're eager to try local street food and will go on a shopping spree. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
In an interview with a think tank, U.S. Ambassador to Beijing, Nicholas Burns has urged China to use its influence to push Russia to withdraw its forces from Ukraine. Burns also said there's a need for a peaceful resolution between Beijing and Taipei. Tracy Furness has more.
What we need to see from China is to push Russia to withdraw its troops, and so that Ukraine can have all of its territory back and can be fully sovereign again in all aspects of that word. And it would be helpful if China pushed Russia to cease bombing of Ukrainian schools and Ukrainian hospitals and Ukrainian apartment buildings.
Speaking by video link to the Stimson Center think tank in Washington, D.C., U.S. Ambassador to China Nicholas Burns said the recent phone call between President Xi Jinping and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was a good first step. Burns said there's no evidence that China is supplying lethal weapons to Russia. Beijing has long pushed for a peaceful solution to the war between Russia and Ukraine, urging the two sides to negotiate. Burns also commented on the tensions between Beijing and Taipei.
Any resolution of the cross-strait differences has to be peaceful, because that's the right thing for us to be saying, because that's the only possible way that this is going to be resolved on a fair basis, this long-time dispute, and because, of course, the Taiwan Strait is a critical international waterway.
Burns said Beijing and Washington should improve communication and that the U.S. is ready for dialogue. Beijing has long stressed that the Taiwan issue is China's domestic affair and there should be no interference from other forces. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
A delegation of U.S. defense contractors and a former senior leader of the U.S. Marine Corps are visiting Taiwan as they seek deeper cooperation with the island.
The pillars that we operate under, one is that we want to be part of the self-defense capabilities of Taiwan. We want to make sure that there's supply chain resilience and that we can preserve and expand Taiwan in the international space.
Speaking at a forum in Taipei Wednesday, retired Lieutenant General Stephen Rutter said the visit was within Washington's multiple agreements with China and laws related to Taiwan, such as the Taiwan Relations Act, which requires Washington to ensure Taiwan can defend itself. A group of activists protested outside with banners that read, "American warmongers are a scourge on Taiwan." Welcome back. A new ceasefire in Sudan has been announced following mediation by neighboring South Sudan. It's due to begin tomorrow and last for a week, but it is already looking fragile. David Garrett reports.
South Sudanese leader President Salva Kiir has brokered a ceasefire. Sudan's warring military factions agreed to a 7-day pause. This morning in Khartoum, there were still signs of violence. An explosion is seen on the horizon. Both generals, Army Chief Abdul al-Burhan and Rapid Support Forces leader Mohamed Dagalo, are said to have spoken to Kiir and agreed to tell their forces to stand down.
We need the guns to fall silent for two reasons. First of all, because we need civilians protected. And clearly they are not. We see a lot of civilians being killed in the hundreds. Secondly, we need that safety in order for us to, for humanitarian organizations to safely get to those people in need.
In Chad, some new arrivals are still staying out in the open or under trees, while others are sleeping in makeshift shelters close to the border. More than 21,000 refugees have so far been verified. In South Sudan, those arriving at the border include older people, people with disabilities, pregnant women, female heads of households with young children.
The African Union's been discussing the situation in Addis Ababa. Ethiopia is one of Sudan's 7 neighbouring countries which are receiving refugees. It's calling on the world to provide as much humanitarian aid as possible. Port Sudan on the Red Sea is still the main exit point for evacuees. Sudanese Americans and others with dual nationalities were preparing to board boats. Citizens are taken to Jeddah via sea or to Cyprus.
The group has a lot of numbers of people, and they did a lot of effort to help as much as they could. And finally, we are now departing from Port Sudan to Jeddah.
It's estimated at least 100,000 may have been displaced so far. Russia's evacuated more than 200. It took Russia longer than some nations to evacuate because many of their citizens were nearest the fiercest fighting. One described being at the epicenter and saw complete bombardment. And others are home too. Emotional scenes in Beijing as families were reunited. This followed a 10-hour flight from Saudi Arabia, hugs and flowers to welcome loved ones back home safe. And this 3-year-old daughter let her picture do the talking. David Garrett, TVB News.
The government has approved 2 pilot projects for city buses, hydrogen-powered double-deckers. They should begin operations later this year. Citybus announced the small-scale implementation of the buses and the installation of the first hydrogen station. The company performed road tests in Australia last year, and the vehicles have been sent to the mainland for further assessment. A male captain of the Star Ferry died after collapsing at work. Police received a report at around 5 in the morning that a 47-year-old captain of the Star Ferry collapsed on a ferry docked at the Bao Choy ferry pier. His colleague reported the case and sought help. Paramedics took him to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, where he was pronounced dead after resuscitation efforts. Star Ferry said it was deeply saddened by the accident and will assist the family as much as possible. A Hong Kong film arts and costume exhibition called Out of Thin Air has opened at the Hong Kong Heritage Museum. It features iconic costumes and props from various local films. Veronica Lin was at the exhibition.
As you visit this exhibition, you're transported back in time alongside these iconic characters that define the heyday of Hong Kong cinema. From a green cellophane raincoat worn by Cora Miao in the 1984 Love in a Fallen City, which was adapted from Eileen Chong's novel, to a gown from this year's blockbuster film, A Guilty Conscience, and a pair of spectacular golden court robes worn by Chow Yun-fa and Gong Li in Curse of the Golden Flower. The exhibition is the first of its kind in Hong Kong. Popular in the 1950s and 60s, Qi Pao or Chinese dress was a go-to costume for stars of that era. Among the delicate hand-sewn Qi Paos on show, Maggie Cheung's in the 1991 movie Center Stage took almost 2 months to make, with the art director purchasing fabric in Shanghai, then bringing it back to Hong Kong to be tailor-made for her. Putting together this exhibition was labor of love, as it was not always easy to track down these costumes and props.
It's an unfortunate fact that in the Hong Kong film industry, there's not enough resource or space to keep all the costumes or props after production. Most of the time, these things are packed and rushed back to the companies or the production companies, and it's all scattered and lost. So when we started trying to find things, it was quite difficult. But luckily, we persisted and did succeed in finding a few very precious pieces of costumes.
On display are various cosmetic tools for bringing to life contemporary and period looks. Also showcased are wigs and prosthetics for special effects. Veronica Lin, TVB News.
That's the news. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.